Hey everyone. In this video, we're going to do a quick review of some of the requirements of your site builder project. And then we're also going to look at the last part, which we didn't discuss, which was the mobile editor and how exactly that works and how it fits in, because you are going to need to engage with that. So I'm going to just create a new site just to keep this as clean as possible. Just go with Portfolio CV, choose a template. And I do, want to mention again that like in these videos, I'll go pretty quickly. If I skip over something, if I'm moving quickly, you can always pause it and go back and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just go with the one that I know already. I'm going to just edit this. And so let's take a quick look at the rubric while that's loading up. So we need to change the default design of the theme's elements, include original media, change the theme stock information, ensure all the content is well presented on the mobile version. And this is the thing that I want to make sure we address because we really haven't talked about it. It's kind of its own conversation. That's why I've got it in this separate video. And then effort and professional appearance. Okay. So let's take a look at this. I need to go, let me close all these extra tabs here. All right. So I've got my site here. As far as editing the default stuff, easy, right? I can just put my name. I can change the size of things very easily. I can move things around. All this is pretty intuitive. This is part of changing the design, moving things. We can resize the header. If I can click the right spot here, there we go. So we can resize that. We can do things like changing the color through edit text, changing font size, pretty straightforward stuff. Maybe I'll try a right line and maybe I'll resize this. Like maybe I want to, let's see, kind of make this more centered. Just do something like this. Okay, so I can edit text, drag things around. I can go to something like these buttons, edit the design, and change all this to whatever you want. You could change all of these to that same design. Okay, so that basically covers this part of changing the default design of the theme's elements. It also includes things like changing the background through the background menu. I could change the color here. I could do some kind of a background image. Let's try one real quick. I'm going to look for, maybe I'll go to Unsplash and search for abstract or something like that. It's going to work. There we go. And something that has mostly the same values, like let's try this one. Change background. And so this is all part of changing the design as well. There we go. That mostly works. I might want to look out for the contrast in different parts, but that gives you the, the basic idea. Change the default design of themes elements. Include original media, right? That was easy enough. We looked at how you could go to like images.google.com and let me see, maybe I can just look myself up and see what happens. Not a lot of pictures, but I can use this one. I can save the image. And so let's say that I had this on my computer already. And I'm going to go here and go to change image. And then I can go to upload media, upload from the computer. And I'm going to go to the desktop. Okay. And as soon as I upload that, I can choose that for my portrait. And if it's too large, it's not a very high resolution image, I can always resize it and change the position of that, okay? Do pay attention to those guidelines. They can be really helpful when it comes to putting things, aligning everything nicely. So that's what it means, include original media, right? It would be great if I could see some stuff that's actually like you or your band or something like that, instead of just Unsplash and Shutterstock media and all that. That would be nice. Maybe original music, that sort of thing, if you've got it. So changing the default design, include original media, change stock information. I've started doing that. That's my name, subtext, change this here. Don't leave this, I'm a paragraph. You know, I teach internet tech and music tech at Loyola University, New Orleans, something like that. Okay. But it also includes things like this information down here. Don't forget about that, right? So this little copyright thing, we want to make sure we change that. Want to make sure that you edit these social links. So set social links, make them go to real places, like actual Facebook page of yours, or just delete it if you don't need it. Okay. So don't forget about all that. And don't forget about all the other pages. And this is connected to all those items like original media, changing design, changing stock information. Don't forget about all this, right? Do you want to change all that? Or just delete stuff if you don't need these pages. You can just delete certain pages. That's okay too. Once a single page site is okay. All right. So that covers the first three. All right. Now, finally, let's move on to ensure that all content is well presented on the mobile version. That's the main thing that we're here for. So just a quick review of that other stuff. And now let's go ahead and let's click switch to mobile. And this usually will give you some kind of, it'll have this little mobile wizard thing that pops up, and it'll start to show you what things are going to look like. And so let's just go through it real quick. So one thing, and this is very typical, you guys have seen it, is a lot of times the menu on a site on mobile will switch over to using what we call like a hamburger menu, where you have the little 3 lines in the top right, and you use that to get to this menu overlay. That's super common. I'm sure you're used to seeing it. You can, in this case, choose if you want it kind of on the right or on the left or just covering everything. I think that looks okay. I'm just going to try that one for now. Now, the header, okay? Do you want it to scroll with the page? So this header information up here, which doesn't look so good, I'll want to fix that. But do I want it to scroll with the page? Do I want it to disappear as I scroll? I'm not crazy about the way it kind of overlaps, so I don't know about that one. Fading out, also not looking so good because it's so slow. Or fixed. That means it'll just stay there. I could go in and put like a background color under this and stuff. Maybe that's the way I want to go about it. But for now, I'm just going to keep it simple and scroll it with the page. Okay. And these, I'm not crazy about what these buttons look like. And also to me, it immediately says like, this is a Wix site. So I'm just going to say no action bar. And next. And the back to top button, another thing I'm not crazy about, but it kind of makes sense if you're losing that hamburger menu as you scroll, which is what I've chosen to do, is to have that go off the screen. I would say if you have a fixed top menu, I would not include that. In general, I wouldn't have that back to top button, but in this case, it kind of makes sense. So I'll leave that. And now let's finally go to the mobile editor. So now we can see, and I haven't actually saved my site yet, so I want to go ahead and do that. Okay. So this shows me what my site looks like right now. And it looks okay. I don't see anything too terrible as far as how this is all working. But I do see that this is a little close, so I might want to go ahead and move this over on mobile, and that looks a little bit better. You can also do things like, if we go to the settings, we can change the font size, we can change the color. It's important to understand that the way this works, and I could also do things like alignment, that the way this works is, this is a little bit different from the way it would work if we were hand coding it, and that this is almost like a separate site. And so the things that we do here in mobile don't necessarily affect the desktop version. So let's just try this. Let's say that we want to change the color here to purple or maybe like this bluish teal color. And so I'm going to switch back to the desktop view, and you can see that that text color is different. So it's two separate sites almost. Okay, so you can move things around, you can change the color of things, and it won't necessarily affect your other desktop site, which can be good because you may need to change a lot about this mobile version. In this case, this, like I said, this mostly looks fine, but let's maybe take a look at the other pages and see how they're looking. They're probably fine since I haven't really done anything to this. But let's do one example. I'm going to go back to desktop. Let's go make our own page. Okay. And let's call this music. And let's go to our add menu and add a big YouTube video. And let's, it's desktop, so let's maybe make it just fill this whole area. Maybe we want it to be like a big video here, like that, if I can get it. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not snapping. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about that too much. And there we go. Now let's save this. And I'm gonna switch over to, yes, you can say don't show again if that gets annoying. Let's switch over to mobile. And actually, in this case, it worked fine. It did resize it for us, which is pretty nice. But sometimes what you'll see is like you may see text that's a bit too large. Like, let's just say that I think this is taking up too much space, right? I can go in and I can lower the text size. You may need to do that on some parts of your site. If something's too large, you can resize it. There are also some things like if you just decide that this image of yourself is kind of like taking up too much space, you can actually just hide it entirely. So you can just hide some things on mobile, and you can see that there's this little tab here for hidden elements. Notice that there's a lot of stuff that's missing, right? So there's no add menu. So that's because we need to actually add elements through the desktop view. So that's an important thing to understand, that to really edit your site, to add a bunch of stuff to it, you need to do it through the desktop view. So that's kind of like your first step. And then what you do once you've done that is kind of come back to the mobile view to make sure everything still looks good. I might want to move this. Oh, I need to actually move the whole thing. This is one of those cases where Wix is not working so ideally. But that's okay. Again, I don't want to spend too much time tweaking the details here, but that's a little bit too close, right? You can see to this text here. So I might want to add some space, or I could just bring it up a little bit. Okay, so that's a couple things to be aware of, is that you can resize text, you can change the colors of things. Like if the text is sitting on a different part of the background than it was on desktop, you may want to change the color. You can hide elements. Remember, that's the hidden elements menu here. And you can always show it back, and it'll give you a little preview of that too, which is pretty nice. So that's really all there is to it. It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. Again, the flow for this is kind of like to work on the desktop version, to make sure the desktop version has all the stuff you need. And really, hand coding web development works in a similar way. Since your desktop version is usually going to have a lot more screen real estate, you can do a lot more with it. You can put a lot more stuff in. And then when it comes to making sure it's mobile friendly, a lot of it is about cutting stuff out or making stuff smaller, right? When you get to that smaller screen, all the stuff you have on desktop may be kind of like overkill. So you have to go about cutting stuff that may be not super necessary. And that's kind of the approach that Wix has taken here. So you put in all the stuff you want on desktop, switch over here to the mobile view, and then you can hide things that aren't necessary and make them smaller and all that, okay? So, I mean, that's really all there is to it. You can see you can also preview the mobile version. So if you want to do that, again, like hiding certain elements, you can preview it while you're in mobile view, which can be nice. I would also definitely recommend that you preview this on your actual phone, because these emulators, like the one in Wix here, don't always do a 100% perfect job of capturing what it actually looks like on your phone. And especially when you consider things like the Mac bottom, or Mac, the iOS bottom menu that pops up like on an iOS mobile browser, that is not factored in here, right? So there's certain like user interface elements that aren't really present that would be there on an actual phone. And so it can be a good idea to check in on an actual device if at all possible. Obviously for anything real that you're going to put out there for other people to look at, you definitely want to look at the site on a real device. So I'd recommend that as well. So just once you publish this, let's go ahead and go back and let's publish it. And that will give you the address, right? You can take this address and you could visit that address on your phone and see what it actually looks like on your phone. And that would be, I would definitely recommend that before you turn the project in, okay? So with that, we have basically covered everything here, changing the theme's design, including your own media, changing the information. It looks okay on mobile. The last thing is just the effort and professional appearance. Obviously, mine isn't looking so great right now. I need to do a bit more work on that, add some more actual information. But otherwise, that pretty much covers what you need to know here. Make sure that when you go to turn it in, that you just paste the link to your actual published site, okay? So some people have made the mistake in the past of pasting like this link to their editor. I can't view your site there, right? So you need to paste this link, this link right here, this URL that comes up when you actually visit the real live site. And maybe a good test is to just like have a friend, email it to a friend, say, hey, can you see my site? Yeah, it looks good. It would definitely be a good idea to get somebody else, you know, a more impartial party to look at your site before you turn it in. And so then when you go to, let me just switch here to, I'm going to switch to a student view. So sorry, cancel. Everything keeps moving around. God. Okay, I'm going to try to switch to a student view so you can see student view. And we're going to go to assignments and our site builders. And so you can put your URL right here and just submit that. And that's what I need so I can actually visit your site. And that's all you have to do to turn it in, is turn in the URL. In the future, with some of your other projects, like the hand-coded stuff, you'll have to turn in files. But for this one, all I really need is the address of the live site. And so I hope that clears up any questions you might have about the requirements or just using that mobile editor. I think you can see it's like everything else on Wix, is pretty intuitive and pretty straightforward. And that's why we don't spend a ton of time on Wix in the class. But as always, let me know if you have any questions about anything.